But hell, we just got like our third crazy snowstorm of the year, so I'm just getting fucking sick of it, honestly.
Yeah, it like snow's cool like once.
Yeah,
And if it's not like that crazy, but then it just gets old. Like
yeah, dude. Like the 10 inches we got was crazy. I hated every moment of that.
10 inches is a lot no matter what you're talking about. You know what I
Yeah, ain't
mean?
that the truth? Damn right. Oh, I know what you mean.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, gentlemen?
Going well, man. Just another great day to be a part of RDR. Missed last week. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to
We're
have you
glad to
back for
have you.
sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Serious.
thanks.
I mean, RDR, I don't know what the letters stand for anymore, but I know there's three of them and there's three of us. So I'm
Makes
assuming
sense.
that the D stands for Daniel. And I don't know what you guys are doing with the R's, but hey,
Christian and
man.
Ray J.
Yep, perfect. Rishon and Rage, yeah, perfect.
Yes.
We are back with you guys. Excited to have AJ back. I'm Christian, and that is Daniel over there. If this is your first time on, welcome in. Probably isn't, so welcome back.
Hey,
Uh,
either way, we love to
but
have you.
last week, if you were with us, we hit you with a little wide receiver free agency preview, and we're gonna basically do that this week. Hit you with the running backs though, for the free agency preview. So we're gonna go through some of the big top name free agents and see how we feel about them, how we feel about where they might land. And then as we do during the offseason, we are going to finish off with some previews of the inbound 2025 class. So with that being said, I mean, we can just roll right into this free agency preview. And there's some interesting names, but I don't know that it has that much juice necessarily, especially with how touted this running back class for the NFL draft is. It felt really weird to try to place some of these guys because why would you sign a 29-year-old running back when you could just draft somebody? You know what I mean?
Yes. 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 You really stole the sentiment on this one. It's like, okay, okay. First of all, this draft class, and I don't know, apparently I'm just skipping the free agency talk, but I feel like this is the running back class we've been waiting for a long
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
It's feeling very good. And so, yeah, with that in mind, I mean, this free agency class is a bit abysmal. Um, Obviously got Nick Chubb, like
Yeah.
really not the picture of health these
Mm-mm.
days, but he's probably the most decorated out of all of these guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of like big names, but all kind of at
Yeah.
the tail end of their prospective careers. And exactly like you're saying, Nick Chubb, a guy who I famously am in love with kind of
Famously.
and he did not look the same last year. You know, maybe being a year removed from surgery could help, but he is 29 years old. And it seems like Cleveland I don't know. Is that a move they would make to bring him back? It seems like it'd be
No.
weird. It does seem like something that maybe Jerry Jones would do. Um,
Oh man. Yeah, I could
and
see that.
pair him with like a rookie that they draft and bring in the name star value. But I don't know. Other than that, it's like really hard to figure out what needs to happen with Nick Chubb because if you can get 70% of what he was, that's still pretty fucking good, you know? But just are you going to get that? Because last year he was like 30% of what he was.
Yeah. And what are you gonna pay
Yeah.
him? What
Hmm.
I
Right.
mean,
What do
at
you
that
pay a
point, does
guy?
Nick Chubb's pride gonna be like, what, $4 million, if that, if he could even get that
I
somewhere.
could see a prove it deal if he's really feeling that he
Three.
has more to
True.
prove, and just be like, okay, a deal like a $4 million deal laden with a bunch of incentives that if he hits, maybe that goes up. But yeah, I mean that's tough for a superstar like that that's been making good money his whole career.
Yeah, that's going to be a tricky one. You always like sometimes the veterans get hooked up, and sometimes they just get left out to dry. I see the Raiders, the like second most cap space. It seems like
Mm,
a good move for them when they need really all the draft picks they can get
hmm
everywhere. So it'd be easily stop the bleeding at that position without giving up too much draft capital to use in other places. So
Yeah,
I like that. A couple other guys, Aaron Jones, what's
Aaron
up?
Jones, yeah, another
Kind of a
guy.
pair of Minnesota guys on here, but go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron Jones, another guy I'm famously in love with. He had a
A lot of
great year last year with Minnesota. And interesting note on him is that the Vikings and him agreed to move his contract date at like his contract expiration date backwards.
They pushed
Yeah,
it back so they could keep the negotiations going or something.
yeah, basically they pushed back his date so that the dead money wouldn't hit just yet and that they can keep
Yeah.
renegotiating the deal. So it seems like they want him back and he kind of makes sense as a guy to bridge with a rookie coming in as well.
Yeah.
He's a veteran leader, seems like a very likable guy in the locker room. So to be able to, like you said, kind of stop the bleeding there, have a presence that you can rely on, and then draft somebody maybe in the third round or fourth round. That makes a lot of sense for the Vikings.
Yeah. I think he really likes it in Minnesota too. Um,
Seems like it.
that's what he's been saying. He said he wants to spend the rest of his career there, which was maybe one, two more
Two
seasons.
more years, yeah.
He only got one season left, and you like the locker room. You like the coach. You like the facilities. Might as well
hmm
stick around.
I love it. Love to hear that.
We got another kind of very, very highbrow name in Najee Harris.
Yeah, sure enough.
I mean, just name value. I don't know that he hasn't had the career that these other two guys have. Basically, kind of been a disappointment being a first round running back. But it
Right.
feels like the Steelers are either going to keep him or Jalen Warren. And with Jalen Warren being a restricted free agent instead of an unrestricted free agent, I feel like he is probably the better uh better choice there to keep and then to let Najee hit the open market. And then at that point, like where does Najee go? The again, it just feels weird. Do you take because Najee is a little older when he got drafted anyway. So do you take the chance on a resurging older running back career who's been fairly lackluster? Or I mean, he's been that makes it sound dramatic. He's been okay. It's not like he's been
Yeah.
bad, but he just hasn't been that draft capital? Or do you just draft somebody? Or do you do both? Like could the Cowboys do something like that as well? It feels like the Cowboys are gonna lose Rico Dowdle, who's another name we should talk about.
Okay.
But it feels like they need to pair a vet with a rookie, or I mean, unless they swing for the fences and get like Ashton Genty or somebody. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with these guys.
I don't either. I know New York seems like a good place. The Giants, he could
Mm,
definitely round out
with Tryon
the
Tracy, that
yeah,
makes
seems like
sense.
a good combo.
He feels like this feels like a Bears move all over it, man. It
Oh,
feels like the,
sure.
the Bears are going to come in and be
Mm,
like, no, we see a lot left in the tank. We're going to pay him too much money than what he's worth and bring him in to be our starter.
I hope so. That would be nice, but
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Um, I I don't know if it's necessarily Najee, but as the resident Chief fan, Daniel, do you think the Chiefs make a move at running back? Kareem Hunt probably out the door. Isaiah Pacheco has not really set the world on fire. Do you think they bring in competition, or are they another team that should attack it in the draft?
Yeah, I think that young speed and excitement is probably the move for the Chiefs. None of
hmm
these guys are really jumping out at me. I mean, they seem like the kind of team that would bring in a guy like AJ Dillon, just to
Oh yeah.
see what's still going on with him. But I would expect him to probably go in the draft after somebody.
Gotcha.
Kareem Hunt probably comes back. I don't even know, man. The running backs are so wild, but Hunt
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
then J.K. Dobbins are probably the guys that had like the best like surprise pop season that are on this free
Mm,
agency list. So I'm looking
yeah.
at those two guys as like honestly just stay where you've had trouble being successful
Hmm.
consistently. You might as well just stay where it's working, and just play good football. But
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know who's
and
breaking out the checkbook for these guys.
well, it seems like Dobbins, it seems like the consensus there is that the Chargers do want him back. I still think, again, I think they draft somebody. Dobbins has not been a guy you can really rely on to play a whole season, but they can save like almost 4 million cutting Gus Edwards, and then bringing in and just re-signing J.K. Dobbins to like a 2-year deal. I think that would be the move that makes sense for the Chargers. He kind of fits what they want to do, but then they could also again attack that position in free agent or through the draft as well. Um, what about like kicking the tires on Javonte Williams for like the Chiefs or somebody like that?
Yeah, he seems like the kind of guy that's going to get opportunity, and he's quite a bit younger than
Hmm.
Najee, right? These are the two main guys that are coming out of their rookie contracts into free agency. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of potential. Obviously, I'm kind of okay with Denver just holding tight with the Jalil and Audric Estime. It seems
Hmm.
like a good combo. But like you're saying, it's a good opportunity for kind of a proven cheap back to come in. I hate to say it, I see like a New England type landing spot for
Hmm.
him where he
Gotcha.
can compete with a guy like Ramondre,
Hmm.
who they've had disappointment with, but I don't see him coming in to be like the lead back for any team. So
Yeah.
kind of competition level addition is what I'm expecting for Javante.
Yeah, which kind of sucks. I know we all really love
Yeah,
Javonte. I think you
go Tar
were
Heels, huh?
Yeah.
still kicking around more consistently when he was coming out, right, AJ?
Oh, I love Javante. I think we
Yeah.
all did. The tackle breaking ability, and
Hmm.
it's
The
honestly
receiving
kind of
ability.
it's crazy because just having such high expectations from him because he didn't have much competition going in.
Hmm.
It's really interesting to hear that he's like his free agent or his rookie contract's up. It's weird to
Yeah.
think he's been in that like in the league for 4 years and made zero impact.
Yeah. It
But then
sucks.
Yeah. He was on like a pretty shitty Denver offense and then some coaching changes and some
And then the
injuries. So
injuries, yeah.
yeah,
So hopefully
it's
maybe a change of scenery can get him. Like you said, he's not as old as some of these other guys, so
I think
potentially,
he could probably go make a difference somewhere. I just don't think he needs to start somewhere new. And I don't think he's had the kind of career where he's going to get, the Dallas type attention where he could be
yeah.
the starter. I mean, I don't know what's going on necessarily. Cincinnati, I know they've got Zach Moss in there, but
Mm,
I think he would round out a back like Chase Brown would be a good kind of
yeah.
1-2 there. There's a bunch of
yeah.
teams kind of like that that could use a solid producer to back up their
Raiders
lead back.
would be an interesting one for Javante as well, I think. If
Everyone
they
stays in division these days, so I
they
mean,
it
there's
does
nothing
happen
in
quite a
that Raiders
bit.
backfield. So
Yeah. Another guy I think the Raiders could look at is Jordan Mason. I think he's
wow,
kind of super interesting. Looked good when he was healthy. And I do think he'd be one of those guys you bring in and draft somebody because he was a backup. So you just kind of kick the tires on him, see where he's at. Relatively cheap option, but looked good. And I don't really see San Francisco keeping him. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but it just seems like they're gonna kind of move on from him.
yeah,
Uh,
I'd say, I mean, they should probably just hold on to him, considering how
Mm,
much trouble they've had getting anybody to stick in
yeah,
that
they should
backfield.
probably just have 6 running backs.
seriously.
Seriously, something like that.
Uh,
But that's wild, dude. This just kind of speaks to how deflated this running back free
yeah.
agency class really is.
Which
Yeah.
could be awesome for a guy like I mentioned earlier, Rico Dowdle, who had a
Yeah.
pretty decent year with Dallas and doesn't seem likely to be back. That he could end up getting a tasty little payday, but the thing is, again, we had a massive running back free agent class last year. So a lot of teams already shored up that position. And then with the draft coming in, this honestly feels like a year where a lot of these guys could get signed after the draft. Like I
Oh,
could see some teams
Yeah.
being like, you know what, let's take our chances, see who we get in the draft, and then sign somebody. If we still need, So it could be kind of slow going for some of these RBs.
Rico Dwaddle had 235 carries and only 2 touchdowns on the ground.
That's tough.
I don't know who screaming for him, but man, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a weird one. Running backs are just impossible to predict as far as the offseason activity goes. That no one's really taken too many chances on them.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to be fun to watch, but I like your prediction that a lot of the action happens post draft. That makes sense from what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking at.
Yeah, because there's a ton of names we didn't even mention who are definitely kind of role players and backups. You got Kenneth Gainwell, Ty Johnson, McNichols, Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, the RDR boys, AJ Dillon, like you said. So there's just a bunch of names that we could see fill in some spots later. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a crazy, crazy high paying free agent class for these guys.
Nah.
Hell
Well,
no. And I mean, they got to compete with these hot rookies. Am I right?
Yes, sir. So, what a transition into, yeah. So, we're going to hit you with some previews of only 2025 inbound running backs. Obviously, some of these guys we're saving for the tournament or closer to the tournament, but we got to hit a ton of guys. So, honestly, I'll just go ahead and kick us off with a guy who was a bit of a late declare or later or a surprise, maybe not late, but a surprise declare in Jaydon Blue out of Texas for the Longhorns. He's a junior, and so interesting cat here. Didn't have like the a ton of production, only 125 carries, 706 yards, and 8 touchdowns, which is actually, I mean, it's fairly efficient. Listed at 6 foot, 200 pounds. And he had some decent passing numbers as well, 300 yards through the air and four more scores. So he had 12 touchdowns. So it does make sense that he would want to try to take advantage of the production. But he's just not been like a bell cow guy. A lot of his like all 22 film stuff is like 4 minutes long because he's just not hitting the field all the time. But what I do like about him, I think he has decent patience. He will kind of wait for things to open up. And I think he moves really well with the blockers that he has, kind of just moving around and finding the hole. But really, he has this really interesting way of getting really small to move through these holes and like almost be unseen by the defense while he's moving around. It literally looks like he shrinks. And I don't know. He's like I said, he's listed at 6 foot. I don't know if he is that, but he has this ability to kind of disappear throughout the line, which is pretty nice. And he pairs that with really good cuts and acceleration and some pretty decent top end speed. So all that together makes like a pretty exciting guy. And he's one of the guys that's kind of on the cusp of the seeding for the bracket right now. And I'm going to start pushing for him to be in, and kind of taking some of these other running backs we got in the South bracket out. But he was fun to watch. Now, he does have, I think, some major red flags though. Obviously the production, not necessarily the efficiency production, like he did a lot with the opportunities he got. But it's just, not being a bell cow, not seeing on the ball a ton of times. I mean, if you throw in his receptions, he had 158 touches, which isn't anything to scoff at, but also not something that you really want to see. But also, he only had 2 games over 100 rushing yards, which is really not what you want to see. Again, lack of the actual touches, but that speaks to why were they not giving him so many touches. And I don't think he has like the best power. Definitely nothing to write home about there. He's good at getting around people, but not necessarily through people. And then what I'm really worried about specifically with that kind of stuff is against two top tier defenses, Michigan and Georgia, he totaled 22 rushing yards in those 2 games. So one of the games he had 0 rushing yards. That was against Georgia. Now he only got the ball twice on the ground, and to be fair, he caught the ball 7 times for 48 yards and a touchdown. So they still used him
Oh, okay.
against Georgia, but just like they didn't even trust him to run against that defensive front, which I think is, that's a pretty glaring red flag to me. But he has some spice. He has some juice. The Michigan game I was watching, again, not a lot on the ground, but he had this like insane juke after a catch, like caught the ball on the run, which he's pretty good at doing, like very, very seamlessly on the run, catching the ball, and then catches it, and there's like one corner there to beat, and just hits him with this nasty outside inside juke and makes it about a 20-25 yard gain. So that's the kind of stuff that you're wanting to see, and I just think because of all these areas and the lack of like consistent touches, I think he'll be at least definitely at first a more of a compliment in a running back room than a straight up killer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to argue for him to be, a day one starter or anything
Hmm.
with that kind of profile. But I did like the guy quite a bit.
Hmm.
I think it kind of feels early on him. He was like a late declare. He just turned 21,
Hmm.
but he does feel like a sleeper whose hype is gonna probably rise throughout the off season just because he's got some solid traits. Thing I liked about him was like his pause adjust processing speed, both
Hmm.
physically and athletically. Seemed pretty good. Wasn't scared to lower the shoulder and just pretty shifty, man. Like you said, he's got good patience and vision's pretty solid. Fun fact, that Texas lost every game that he had less than 5 carries in and won every game that he had
Huh.
more than 5 carries in. No.
Interesting.
Um,
And that's why we need him on my team.
so yeah, in their 3 losses, he had like 0, 2, and 4 carries this last year. So I don't know. It's ridiculous,
That
but
is kind of wild.
This
I
is
gotta
some
say,
like
man,
Tyler Algier stats coming from Daniel over here.
I
You
know,
guys know
right,
they
dude?
kicked not very many field goals.
That's true, dude. I mean, and look at Tyler Algier. When I find these things, I say these things, and look what happens. But um, yeah, it was 134 rush attempts and 5 fumbles. Kills me.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's tough.
Yeah,
Very,
but
very
bummer.
tough.
fun to watch, but I could
Yeah.
see, I guess, if you're doing that, you might not get the ball as many times, especially in those high stake games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
But
Well, Dano, you want to hit us with one of your guys?
sure. AJ, you got any Jaydon Blue? I know you like to watch a little
Uh,
film while we go through.
I did not. Yeah, I scrolled too far into the text chat and I watched the receivers from last week. So,
We don't have to talk about. I
but you
know
guys
sometimes
already
you
you
on the
said it all.
fly.
You guys said it all last week.
You got
So,
some beautiful stuff on the fly sometimes, so I give you a little opportunity,
no,
but
no, I appreciate it. I
didn't want to
appreciate
cut you off here. So, all right, I'll get into my first guy. I'm going with Tahj Brooks.
Staying in Texas.
Yeah, Texas Tech, man. And this dude, I'm just gonna preface this by telling you that Brooks is slow fast.
Mm.
That's the big takeaway. This guy is slow fast. He's not fast slow. He is slow fast. Um, really, the production for him was kind of out of this world. Yeah, he finished off his final year with an average of 135 yards per game rushing.
Mm. Wow.
Um, yeah, 0 games this last year, under 100 yards. So it was consistent production, really, really solid. In fact, he capped off his career at Texas Tech with a 21 game streak of over 90 yards rushing
Jeez.
uh, in
it.
each game. So very, very impressive. But he was there for 5 years. Pretty outrageous volume, 879 carries.
Hmm.
That's the big number, much higher than the average. And he'll be turning 23 in May as well. So he's like Cam Akers' age, no big deal. But
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, but I did enjoy watching him, and there's some good stuff. He's got some quick cuts and adjustments, but he doesn't really possess the explosiveness you'd like for the guy with that style. So like just because he's making the moves and the adjustments, he's not like connecting it to like that explosiveness that
Mm.
you need to after doing such things. But um, he does roll like a cannonball once he gets up to his dozing speed.
Let's do
Um, but he doesn't push through contact near and behind the line of scrimmage. So it's like a tell of two stories with this guy. Really, the whole time, I was just confused by him. But he just gets stood up easily and runs a little upright. He doesn't put his shoulder down like you would expect a guy who's 5'10", 220 pounds. It's just crazy. He's got like good open field ability and some one cut speed. At times that looks like he could be a workhorse, but it just wasn't consistent. Obviously, he was being leaned on pretty heavily by the Red Raiders with that kind of workload. Um, but I just couldn't get enough consistency out of his game to get super hyped about him. Like
Hmm.
I looked at the stats and it's 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, 26 carries of 15 plus yards. And so you're like, okay, this guy was out there kicking ass. But then you watch the film, and if it's not a 15-yard carry, it's kind of a big disappointment.
Mm.
And I'm honestly shocked at how many carries he got, considering like he was being stuffed like consistently, kind of letting his team down in big plays. If you watch the all 22 full game, it's like, oh, he gets a carry, nothing happens, and then it's like, okay, we're just gonna go pass play. He wasn't getting a lot of consecutive carries, but he was getting plenty throughout. But I don't know. I want to see the 40 time. If he is as fast as he is in some of those like up and down plays, I would be pretty excited about him. But I just don't, I can't tell from watching what I'm actually looking at. It's obviously good production, good football player, but I think there's like an amount of acceleration that he's missing in
Mm.
key moments that are going to limit him. He's not a total package by any means. And like everyone hates him. PFF, like all the big boards are like, this guy sucks complete ass. But then like you look and he's got some really, really, really nice plays, but
Hmm.
the consistency is what kills him. I don't know if you saw something different.
No, I think you kind of hit the nail there. I mean, he's got size, he's got power, but like you said, it's not this like ground shaking power that you see him running over people or pushing through the pile all the time. And I was a little busy this week, so I only watched like a couple games on him, so maybe I'll find it later. But yeah, the speed and really it's the upside that I'm worried about. He honestly, it's like kind of like how I felt about Tyler Algier. Like I know we already mentioned him. You liked him a lot and he came out and had an awesome rookie year, but like kind of what he's become is to me like the absolute upside for what Tahj Brooks could be. Like a guy that can come in and he has good instincts and he has a decent bounce along the line to be able to kind of hit the hole, but he's not gonna like break away any games for you or change your roster or your offense to the point that you can really rely on him. And I mean, like the very next year after Tyler Algier has a great rookie year, they go out and get the biggest RB coming out of college in the last decade. So that's kind of he just doesn't have enough juice for me to really get that excited about him. I do think he's a solid player, and I think he could end up in a rotational role, but just not really excited enough about him to want to go after him hard in rookie drafts.
Yeah, it's going to get lost in the depth of this class easily. But
I think so.
if he could end up in a place where he's backing up Cordero Patterson, he might have a good rookie
Yeah, there you
year.
go.
Got it.
Hey, there you go. CP.
CP. All right, AJ,
I
you want to
mean,
hit us with the running back?
yeah, that kind of rolls into mine. I think, when we're talking about these guys that are a little farther down on the board, they all kind of sound the same, you know.
Mm.
As far as when you're describing them, I got JD Giddens from Kansas State, 6'1", 212. I'll kind of start with some pros. I'm just gonna kind of work into like a little balancing act here. So he does have a workhorse ability. Um, he averaged 17 carries and 111 yards on the season. He's got durability. He played all his games from 2023 to 2024. And within both of those both of those years, 2023 had 233 carries for 1,200 yards. And in 2024, he had 205 carries for 1,343 yards. So, going over 1,200 back-to-back years, over 200 plus carries, no injuries. I like that. But, there's a reason to that. You know, he feels like he just avoids contact. He's kind of scared to block. Like, I'll just go through here. So it's like everything that has good to say about him, he also has something bad to say about him in like the same capacity. So like he's got pretty decent balance and he can break arm tackles, but if he goes up to like a squared up defender, he just kind of like falls right into him. He can't
Mm,
really break that tackle. So he's got like vision with cutback ability, but also his cutbacks, once he gets his speed, he's like flailing and he's running straight up,
mm,
um, which causes him to get or caught from behind often. He's got like a bag of tricks where he's got some juke twitch to him. He's got some spin moves, but he also runs like he's got like ADHD. Like he's like his body is moving before he's processing like what's happening. So it's like a weird, almost natural running ability, but like the mind's not like processing like a high NFL like running IQ. But he also like burrows, like he'll burrow in there. He's like a bowling ball. He sits there and bounces off. I'm gonna try to make this like a staple. I'm gonna call it tight end vision. He's got tight end vision,
mm.
where it's just like not coordinated, but it's like good. That weird. I don't know what it is. Um, but then
It's
it's like, oh, go ahead.
it's like the avoidance vision or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like he can find those pockets when he's in open space, but like he's got to get there first. Like he's got no nose for the end zone, but also you got Avery Johnson, right? Who scored as a rushing quarterback, scored 7 rushing touchdown. Then he gets lost in his routes, but he like does his job. When he's got to
Mhm.
run like a decoy route, it works. But when he runs an actual route, it doesn't. Not a lot of breakaway speed, but good hole burst. No blocking instincts, but he'll run down the field and make blocking downfield. Like he's got effort plays. Uh, I don't know, man. I watched 3 games, and I'm just going to say the things that were notable to me, and all of these were pretty much bad things. Like I can have a wide spectrum, like a wide vision of like, oh, he's got decent vision and all this, but like getting down to nitty gritty, I watched the Colorado game. He dropped a wide open swing pass. He was caught from behind on a breakaway. He ran the same route as a tight end where they both ended up in the same position, and he was stuffed 3 times on the goal line.
Mm,
When he played KU, he had 2 missed pass blocks, a missed chip block, and then he did this thing where he was a lead blocker on reverse play. And as he was coming around, he chose to block the outside shoulder of the cornerback who was already being blocked rather than going downfield. And then when I watched the
Oof.
Oklahoma State game, he did the exact same thing on a swing pass where he's a lead blocker, blocks the same guy the wide receiver is blocking, and both times tackled for a loss by the linebacker. So, but to say all that, in those 3 games, he had average 19 carries for 157 yards, and his average long run was 35 and a half
mm,
on the season. So it's like kind of like you were talking about Tahj, where it's like it's either a big play. I don't know, man. He somehow just comes up with all these big plays. I'm kind of just after seeing all the mental errors, I think he's a very gifted athlete and he's got size, but he just doesn't have a good natural instinct for the game. And I think a lot of his success kind of comes off the Avery Johnson like RPO styled offense and like just a great offensive line where at Kansas State. So I don't know. I've turned into a negative guy all of a sudden. I used to be so positive on this show. Now I'm just like hating so much, but we'll get to the positives for my next guy.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, no, but I'm with you on watching DJ Giddens here. He has some stuff that you like to see. I think you mentioned it. I think he's a powerful runner. I do think he's hard to tackle. Maybe not necessarily like breaking all kinds of tackles in terms of like moves. But I do think he has like some juice there. Like he has some strong juke sometimes. He has some fluid movement. And I do think he has pretty decent vision, but it's just like Tahj Brooks, it's the upside conversation. It's the speed isn't there. The quickness, I'm skeptical that the moves that he does have will translate into the NFL when you got linebackers that are probably going to dust him with their speed. So I'm just worried. Again, feels like a rotational guy to me, which is tough for a guy that had 1,300 yards, and like you're saying, was averaging really, really good games. But then you combine that with like, I mean, we're talking about him playing Arizona and KU and Colorado. We're not talking about him playing these big name schools. So once the talent on the defense goes up, I'm not sure that he's going to translate into somebody that's going to be hyper productive at the next level.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's kind of like watching, it felt like you're watching a good running back in high school, you know?
Mm,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
You watch these other guys and they look like they're out there purposely playing their game and winning. And then
Mhm.
this guy, it's like, is he as surprised as us that that went for a big gain right now?
Yeah.
Because it almost felt like that. I will say I watched a ton of his film because I couldn't really figure out what I liked and what I didn't like about him.
Mm,
But you guys have done a great job, so I'll just sum up. My favorite thing about him was it was all in the feet for him. I thought he had great footwork,
hmm
kind of like
Yeah.
floating, driving, shifting, good long strides. Uh, if he was successful on a play, it was because of the way he set it up with his feet. Um, but then, like at the same time, 6'1", like you could tell this dude was 6'1" looking at
hmm
him. Like it, you want a little bit of density on your running backs as far as like power and bowling through
hmm
defenders, and he didn't really have that. I mean, the long strides are cool, but like you still have to have power. You still have to score more than 7 touchdowns on 200 carries.
hmm
You're killing me, Smalls. So,
Yeah.
um,
That was the thing is like he can create, but as soon as he loses that cutback move, like if he just came square up on a defender or up on an offensive or defensive lineman, he just panicked. He like had no idea what to do.
no, dude, it's some high school ball bullshit, dude. I don't think it goes. So,
Well, that's fair. Well, that kind of transitions perfectly into my guy. You talking about you wanting some density with Jordan James out of Oregon, 5'10", listed at 5'10", 210. Had 15 touchdowns, 1,200 yards this season. He's got some power and some balance, and he's got that density that you like to see. And I do think he's got really strong vision and decision making, which he pairs with that power. I mean, if you go and watch that Michigan State game he had, constantly throughout that game, he was smashing through arms tackles, and unlike Giddens, where you were saying he kind of falls into people, he's trying to run through you if he can't get around you. It's fun to watch. And he's got some juice. I think he's got some good burst, which really helps. I think he has a nice jump cut to pair with all these other things, and he does. He also has a nice little spin move that he'll throw out every now and again, that I saw several times. The problem is kind of just like these last three guys, he doesn't have the home run ability. He doesn't have like that top end speed that would make him like a true difference maker. But I do put him in a tier above a lot of these guys we've been talking about this episode in terms of I do think he is very likely at his best as the thunder to somebody's lightning, but he could be kind of the top end version of that, kind of like what we see with Demont and Jameer Gibbs. Like he has that very similar like instincts, running ability, the ability to run through people. He's not as I mean, he had okay receiving numbers, but I wouldn't classify him as like a great receiver. So I do think he needs to work on that part of his game to be truly in that territory. But like man, I just think he has really nice instincts and the ability to kind of hit the hole and just try to run through your chest, which I think a lot of teams are going to like about him. And I mean, he has the nose for the end zone, unlike Giddens. He had 15 rushing touchdowns and zero through the air, which kind of speaks to that non-versatile status. He only had 207 yards through the air on 26 catches, which isn't horrible, but it's still not great. But I do think he could be maybe not the 1B, but a very, very solid number two in an NFL offense. And I'm kind of excited to see where he goes. I could see if he comes out at the combine and maybe runs a little faster than people expect, is a little quicker, I think he could move up some people's boards. Again, I think he's like a third round pick, probably at most, more likely a fourth round pick. But I do think he has the chance to be paired with somebody quick and really kind of change up that running style, and which can be tough for defenses when you're trying to guard a Jahmyr Gibbs and then all of a sudden you got Demont running through your chest. It's tough. And I think a team could see that in Jordan James and maybe want to pair him with somebody.
Maybe he could just be
Yes.
Tails in that offense.
There you go.
Sonic Knuckles
Throw
and
him
Tails, the
throw him
three-headed
into
Dude,
monster.
Detroit.
my God, that's scary to think about, but wow. All right, you guys have got me rattled. Um, I liked Jordan James quite a bit. I was pretty impressed with him. A couple traits jumped out, the contact balance, the
Oh
shiftiness,
yeah.
and acceleration. I'm not going to say the speed because you kind of nailed it there, but the acceleration.
Yeah, that
Uh,
burst is nice.
it
Yeah.
was good. It was clean, man. And so I'm gonna do what I always do. I'm just talk about the past and the people that I care about and love, and then forget all the actual relevant stuff. So here we go. We cannot forget that he had a 7.1 yard per carry, almost 800 yards, and 11 rushing touchdowns in 2023. So he definitely was a big contributor in causing people to undervalue Bucky Irving in this offense last
Mhm.
year. So I think that if he can compete against that kind of situation and carve out a nice workload and then consistently take over as the lead back, he did a really good job. Then I think he's got a lot of potential. He does profile as like a third down back, but I think he'll grow into consistent usage and gain the trust of a team. I watched a lot of film on him because I was kind of looking for some red flags, and I didn't really see him on tape, but then I jumped into the stats, and like you're saying, the top end speed is rough, not a lot of runaway, and the stat that jumped out that really just killed me on this guy was the yards on breakaway runs. For him was 18.4%, which is that's like a severely low number. Half of the
Mhm.
guys on tonight's episode are over 50%,
Wow.
and the other two guys are like 38%. And this guy's at 18%. So he's not getting big plays.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a runner, but he's a first down, not a long touchdown kind of guy.
Yeah.
But that was a bummer, dude, because if you look at play by play, um, gosh, he looked really, really awesome. So I
Yeah.
was into him.
He's definitely got some traits that you really, really like and some stuff that you can really latch on to. But yeah, I just think he has a very clearly defined ceiling, and that ceiling is best case scenario what David Montgomery's doing right now. And that's the absolute 100% best case to me.
Right on. I liked him. So
Yeah, he's
I'm
fun to
into
watch.
it.
Fun to watch.
Um,
Hell yeah.
Go ahead.
should I?
Yeah, take it
R
away.
RJ Harvey, y'all. I'm going to talk about RJ Harvey tonight. He is a 24-year-old. I'm going old. You guys went young. I've seen you guys are all like 21, and my guys are all like 24. So
You
this is
like
just
you
how,
like a wiser back.
yeah, it's seasoned. Um, dude,
Grizzled
I
vet.
freaking RJ Harvey from UCF was pretty awesome. I like this guy a lot. I enjoyed watching him. I
Mhm.
kind of spent some time parked on him. He's a strong runner, and he had serious focus. I would say he was like outrageous intensity was kind of his description that I kept going to. Um, it was just kind of strange to watch how well he did what he wanted to do. He was a guy that he had good patience behind the line, set up, waited for a hole. He let blocks develop, and then he would shoot through and fly. It was kind of cool. Like he trusted the O line; they had a good relationship. And I'd say he's probably the best back I've seen so far in being good at both the inside and the outside running ability at a high level. Like a lot of these guys, they want to race to the edge or they're powerful, they go up the middle, but he really blended the skill set really well. So I like that, and his open field ability was really nice. I know we've used some bowling analogies tonight, and I'm going to keep that theme going. But I would compare him with the ball in his hands to watching bowling with the bumpers out.
Mm.
Like he just kind of bounced and kept rolling time and time again. And it was impressive to see. I have to give some credit to the O line at UCF. I think that they created a lot of high-end opportunities for him, especially at the goal line. Harvey was kind of guy that like I said, he's been very patient. He wasn't the kind of guy that would just hit an inside gap and push. A lot of times, even at the goal line, he would kind of wait for a place to develop, wait for the opportunity, and then drive through for a touchdown. You know, treating it like it was just any midfield, second down, more so than just, so many guys at the back of the line and just want to drive. But he still kept his fundamentals and his patience at the goal line, which I was into. And it led to like he had 25 total touchdowns. Um, and I thought, I don't know, I liked it, but only five of them came from outside the red zone. So that tells you how this team was kind of leaning towards him in the red zone. Five of his touchdowns were actually direct snaps to him.
Ooh.
So Wildcat style, I like that. I've got to tell you, okay, so I'm just going through all these touchdowns. I like to break down the touchdowns when I get into these guys. And so 10 of them came from 5 yards or less. So he does have that goal line power to punch through. But a ton of these touchdowns were like between 12 and 19 yards. And it was, that kind of let the play develop, hit the hole and run. Like he had some nice skills and just like his style of running, the patience and the execution. It's pretty cool. Like he's breaking tackles, the linebackers were putting on him, and then he was out maneuvering DBs down the field. So it was pretty good. He only had one game under 100 all-purpose yards in the past 2 years, and that one game was 92 yards. So I'll take that. Promising pass catcher, 61 catches for 720 yards after over the course of 3 seasons. And it was pretty consistent throughout those years. So I'll take that. I do think the guy is special. I know he's old as hell. He's 5'9", 208. But I think that I couldn't find much to hold against him, and I seriously looked hard trying to find weaknesses. I'll say that pause, adjust, kind of start at full speed that I really like about him. That patience can also get him into trouble. Sometimes he'll get caught with nowhere to go, and in those situations, rather than running into the line, pushing forward and taking whatever he can get, a lot of times you just get caught up and taken down. Um, so that was kind of a bummer. You never saw him really just like hit the line and push. You got to have that in your game as well. But just got carried away enjoying this guy's approach to the game, honestly.
Yeah, no, I liked him a lot too. It was cool to hear you mention his trust in his offensive line because that was the biggest thing I noticed. Is the line movement. He's really shifty and he's great at using the line to his advantage. Like what I mean is the Arizona State game, the first TD of three that he had in that game.
Yeah,
Um,
Jesus.
he was about to hit the hole that you could clearly see that the play was designed to go. And a lot of running backs would have punched through that hole and taken the 4 or 5 yards that he would have gotten. But he saw three red jerseys and then kind of like hid behind the guard, like kind of just stepped to him and then grabbed the guard's back and then kind of like was patiently waiting and then moved, hit the left side of the hole, ends up being a touchdown. Just fun stuff like that he was doing constantly, very shifty behind that line and very good at it. Like you said, that can lead to some down plays every now and then, but I think the upside has consistently weighed in. And yeah, like the only negative that I saw so far was that age. I'm not a big fan of older running backs. But I mean, he had 6.8 yards per carry on the season, which is really, really nice. It's like fourth or fifth in our tournament people so far. And then he only had 3 games below 100 rushing yards this season. And one of those games was 94. So, I mean, basically, he only had 2 games below. And like you said, if you pair that with the receiving, he was over 100 all-purpose yards almost all the time. So yeah, there's a lot to like here. Honestly, he kind of reminded me of like thicker Bucky Irving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah.
not like maybe that's too much of a praise right now considering the year that Bucky Irving had. But just his ability to kind of move along and get open and get tackle or force missed tackles and kind of just take every inch that the defense will give him by finding the holes and finding the open space was similar to me in the way that Bucky Irving did it coming out of Oregon. So I'm really into him as well. I think he's a lot of fun. Could be a sneaky second round uh rookie draft pick.
Yeah, I think he's definitely gonna be. Damn, I want all those second round picks. Somebody tell Ian to check his
Ah,
DMs,
Oh
please.
goodness.
man, you
Please.
guys say Bucky Irving. I'm over here like this sounds like Rashad White. It's like he's gonna come into the year, have a
Hmm.
great year. Everyone's gonna be like, "Wow, this is the next best guy," and then Bucky Irving gets drafted, and you never hear about him again.
Well, I think he's a way better
Tyler, how's your
runner
story?
than
That is my story.
than White though. White was a receiving product
No,
that yeah.
absolutely.
But all right, AJ, you want to round us out tonight?
Yeah, yeah. I'll round it out. I'm gonna keep this short, because I love this guy, Kaleb Johnson out
Hmm.
of Iowa.
Yeah.
I actually watched a few Iowa games this year live.
Hell yeah, you
Man,
did.
I did. It was fun, man. He's like, let's see, 240 carries, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. Dude, 6 foot, 225. I think this is slowly going to become the ideal back size as we're going forward. The little taller, little heavier, man. He's a true workhorse back, dude. I think he's durable. I think he's got what it takes. Um, I know a lot of knock for him is his receiving ability. Um, but I think that just lies within the stats. If you actually watch him catch passes, he's got a pretty good catch ability. He's made some difficult catches. He only had 2 drops on the year, which out of 25, you'd like to see it at 0. But we're also talking about the University of Iowa, who I think 2 years ago their leading receiver was what Sam Laporta with 600 yards, and we've seen what kind of product he turned into. That's just a product of what Iowa does with the ball. They run the ball, and they have the perfect guy. You guys, they know he's going to run the ball. He gets the ball. Similar to your RJ guy, I think he's very patient, both inside and out. I feel like you stole my notes a little bit there, Daniel. Um, but no,
We
this
share a drive.
yeah. Oh, I didn't look at that. But seriously, like I think he does have that patience, like you were saying about RJ. It's like he doesn't rush for the corner, he doesn't rush anything too far up the or as he's going up the middle. He kind of just waits for his blocker. He had a really nice run. I think it was Michigan State where it's just like he's just so good about just being so patient, waiting for his pulling tackle before he like makes his move and kind of bursts through the hole. I think he's pretty explosive. I think he's an aware an active pass blocker. I don't think he's the toughest when it comes to pass blocking, but I feel like he's always in the right spot, at least. So like that shows me discipline. I think he's got body control. I think he doesn't run like fiercely, but he runs I don't know. I like to use the word just very active and very aware. Like he just seems like he knows where he needs to be, where the play's developing. Um, and it's also coming from when I think about these things, you play the Big Ten and you got a bunch of corn-fed Iowa boys, so you're gonna have a good offensive line. But I just think he's a very disciplined guy and he accelerates when the hole is there. He finds it and he goes. Um, let's see what else I got here. And one thing I really like about him is I feel like he prioritizes ball security. So I think he's going to be a real coach's guy. He had 0 fumbles on the year. He had 2 the previous year, but they weren't lost. But still putting the ball, church money on the floor ain't no good, boys. But I don't know. Every time if you watch him run the ball, like he'll if he's gonna go full speed, he's gonna put it in one arm, and as soon as defender gets to him, he locks that ball up. His shoulders are always square. He doesn't have a lot of like jukey lateral ability, but I kind of like that about him. He reminds me of Ramondre, dude. He reminds me of Ramondre Stevenson,
Yeah,
just
I can
not
see
as
that.
big. Um, this follows the
Good size
ball
though.
or follows the blocks. I've already said that. The cons I have here, he doesn't have 2 first names. I spell his name right every time, and he didn't play quarterback in high school. So
Oh,
I don't know.
hey.
Maybe those are some things to knock him on.
Oh
Um,
my God. Hey, Ramondre weighed his PFF weight was like 245, right? But then he actually
yeah.
came out at 225. So it could be all right. It could be all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
He reminded me like a Ramondre, like this probably isn't like a really good comparison, but like maybe just like a more aggressive Najee Harris, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. Dude,
So
I don't know. I think the word that I kept going to when watching him was perseverance. Like
yeah,
he had good power up the middle through contact in the open field. He was powerful. And then he'd get in the open field. He had like this funny like jogging sprint, but he was still breaking away from guys. It
Hmm.
was kind of cool to see. I thought he could add more explosiveness at the line of scrimmage. And he did have patience as the play developed, but I didn't see a lot of cutbacks. Um,
yeah,
and the thing is, I don't think that the Iowa O line creates an environment where a back has to like lean on his vision and improvising. Eh? But watching him play in contrast to RJ Harvey, Kaleb Johnson, 100% to me seemed like this is the play, this is the whole type player. Not a lot of ad-libbing, not a lot of creativity to salvage a broken play. But all in all, like the guy was a juggernaut, man. He seems like he's a trusted, locked and loaded guy that's going to go in there and work hard and be successful. You just might not get like the flashiness that isn't really necessary to success, but if he gets to a good play caller with a good O line, he's a big play factory, man. I think he's going to transition really well into the NFL.
Yeah, I think so too. He's got, like you kind of said, that jogging speed. He's like deceptively fast. He doesn't look like he's running that fast, but he's just dusting fools.
It's
And so
crazy.
it's super interesting to watch. I think he's super smooth, just with the way he does everything. I kind of see what you're saying about like him just hitting the hole that he's meant to hit. But to be fair, there's a lot of smoke for the Ben Johnson loves Caleb Johnson.
Oh,
So if he were to go to the
oh,
Bears, that's kind of like the
Chi-Town.
perfect
yeah.
offensive coordinator for him to be paired with, for that kind of stuff. And I just, yeah, his vision and movement I think is really good, and he has really good patience. And he just was smooth with it to me. 9 games over 100 yards, only, and five were over 160. Which is pretty crazy. 6.4 yards per carry, which was sixth among our tournament participants, but he was second in carries for the guys in the top six. So he's running the ball a significant more than everybody except Ashton Genty over there. And then,
Outlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then he was actually fourth for the tournament in yards after contact per attempt, which is pretty nice. He just, yeah, man, like the Ohio State touchdown run, it was like 30 yards, and he just kind of took it straight up the middle, makes one step, one stiff arm, and he's gone. Iowa State, he was running to the right, and just this big hole opened up, and then it was just like that. He was just gone. Had 7.5 yards per carry in that game. And against Illinois State, he didn't have that many carries, but he didn't need to because he was hitting at almost 11 a clip. So
Beautiful.
Oh,
just
yeah.
the efficiency is outrageous for this guy. And yeah, he got me really excited. He's gotten me the most excited out of the running backs I've watched, not named Ashton Genty so far.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought
And
we all agreed to say bad things about him so that we
I
could
wanted
draft
to.
him later.
I
But
wanted to, and I oppositely did that. I said
it's
zero bad
tough.
things about
you,
him.
you fucked
It's
that boy
tough.
up.
And I didn't realize we weren't. I probably should have saved him for the tournament. But
Oh, dude.
honestly, hey,
No.
just because I already wrote this, you guys want to hear my takes on your receivers from last
Yeah,
week?
yeah, let's
Fuck
hit
yeah.
that.
I'll just stick to my little three standout ones here. So I'm going to start with Rock Taylor from
Mm,
Memphis, who Christian did. Um, we're just doing the fun facts portion of this.
okay.
He had a scholarship to Tennessee until the coach pulled it, and then he was after the new coach, or until the new coach came in and pulled it. He was in an interview when someone asked who he would let date his sister. He said linebacker Sincere Evans. And he also won an award for Christian. That's not a running back, but I wonder what his burst score is. Previous winners, De'Ami Brown and Alec Pierce. Um,
Huh.
and then I put Pat Bryant. He was married on October 5th.
Oh wow.
He's from Duval County,
Okay.
and he won Daniel's Award for Big 10 out of 10. It's a lock. He can't miss prospect. Previous winners, Rashad Bateman and David Bell.
Oh yeah, Big Ten, baby.
Um, then I put Caden Prather from Maryland. I wrote Christian. I already did Ty Felton. What the hell are you doing?
Oh shit,
Uh,
dude.
uh, attended the same college as Stefan Diggs and won an award for I wish he was 2 inches taller, so he was 6'5". So Daniel, please trade me Drake London.
Got it.
And then let's see, we're doing Nick Nash, dual threat quarterback when he was recruited out of San Jose State. He also was the Triple Crown winner in FBS, and he earned the award for Daniel's Small School Scoundrels. Previous winners Jonathan Adams Jr. and Cade Johnson,
Hell
Come
yeah.
with
on, dude.
runner-up Sage Surratt. Boom!
God.
I just wanted to bring
Killing
up.
me.
I just wanted to bring up a little nostalgia of guys that you guys were fun for. I thought it was fun.
No, that was awesome. That's what we missed you
Beautiful.
last week, man. We needed
For
that.
sure.
I had nothing good to say about him. I just wanted to poke fun at you guys. So
Oh, fair
I
enough.
love that element. That was awesome, man.
Well, all right. On that note, we will wrap it up tonight. So that was the running back free agency preview. Next week, unless I'm mistaken, we are going to do a quarterback slash tight end free agency preview,
got it. Got it.
along with the rookie profile. So if you need a quarterback, you're in a super flex league, or you need some tight end, it's a juicy tight end class. So
It's
please
a
join us.
juicy.
Yeah, hell yeah. Please join
Juicy.
us next week for that. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Goodbye for now.
I took a lease out on you.